Okay, you guys, if you're watching this video, you have probably accessed math task number 5. Math task number 5 today is all about rounding, okay? So we're going to do a quick mini lesson about rounding just to refresh your memory. And then you are going to create a rap or a song explaining how we round, and you're going to go and share that on Flipgrid. Okay, now I've also attached an anchor chart to the assignment, so make sure you look at that anchor chart to help you create your rap or your song in case you get stuck. Okay, and it might give you some ideas. All right, so we're first going to start with round. We're going to round 3,432 and 67 hundredths to the nearest thousands place. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I want to take my number and I'm going to put my number in the place value chart. Okay, and I'm going to start with my biggest number. I have a 3. Okay, and I know that my 3 is in the thousands place. I have a 4 in the hundreds place, a 3 in the tens, a 2 in the ones, a 6 in the tenths, and a 7 in the hundredths. Okay, and I'm just going to rewrite my decimal, and I'm going to add my comma. Okay, we know that we only use commas when we're doing whole numbers. Okay, so we're not going to have any commas in the tenths or the hundredths. My comma is going to be after the first 3 digits. I love math, comma. Okay. All right, so I'm going to look back at my question. The first thing that we need to remember when we're rounding is we have to first figure out the place. We have to find the place that our question is telling us to round to. So in this case, it's telling us to round to the thousands place. Okay, so I am going to underline the thousands place. Okay, we always want to underline the place first. Then we're going to circle next door, and we always want to circle our friend next door to the right. Okay, so next door to the right we have a 4 in the hundreds place. Okay, now the number that we circled, or our friend next door, is going to tell us if we are going to add one more or if we're going to let it rest. Okay, so remember, I've told you guys, if it's 5 or more, we add one more. If it's 4 or less, we let it rest. Okay, so if we're looking at this number 4, I know that the number 4 is 4 or less. So that means I'm going to let the 3 rest. So when we say we're going to let it rest, that means we're going to keep it the same. So I'm going to write my 3 right underneath there in the thousands place, and I'm going to keep it the same. Okay, now everything after it, we can't forget this last step. Everything after it becomes a 0. Okay, or everything to the right of the number becomes a 0. Okay, and we know we can use the circled number to help us remember that everything after it becomes a 0. Okay, I want to make sure I bring down my comma and my decimal. Okay, so 3,432 and 67 hundredths is rounded to the nearest thousands place is just 3,000. Okay, let's go ahead and do another example. Okay, so we're going to work through another example. I have already gone and taken this new number and I have written it already in the place value chart. Okay, so we need to first remember that we always want to look back at our question. Our question here is telling us to round 48,379 to the nearest tens place. Okay, the nearest tens place. Okay, so I always want to look for the place first, so I need to underline the tens place. Okay, now I have to go next door to my number 9 and decide if I'm going to let that 7 rest or if I'm going to add one more. Okay, so we have to look at the 9 to decide, well, that 9, is it 5 or more or 4 or less? That's right, it's 5 or more. So I'm going to add one more to that 7. So if I'm adding 1 to the 7, it's going to become an 8, right? 7 plus 1 is okay? And then if you remember, everything to the right of that number now becomes a 0. These digits to the left of the number just stay the same. They do not change. You just bring them down exactly how they are written. Okay, and I want to make sure I include my decimal. Okay, so 48,379 rounded to the nearest tens place is 48,380. Okay, I want to show you one more example. Okay, this time we have a number that is bigger. It goes all the way to the hundred thousands place. Okay, and so we want to first look back at our question. Our question is asking us to round to the nearest hundreds place. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is go and underline the hundreds place. Okay, and I have a 3 in my hundreds place. Okay, well, I need to round to the nearest hundred, so I need to look next door to my tens place. Okay, and that 2 is going to help me decide if I am going to add one more to the 3 or if I'm going to let it rest. Okay, so remember, if it's 4 or less, we let it rest. If it's 5 or more, we add one more. Okay, well, that 2, is that 4 or less or 5 or more? 4 or less. So we're going to let the 3 rest. That 3 can just stay the same, and everything after it becomes a 0. Okay, now remember, everything to the left of that number just stays the same. Okay, the only time you change things to a 0 is if it's on the right hand side. Okay, so we just bring down that 4, that 7, and that 6, and we want to make sure to include our comma. Okay, so 674,321 rounded to the nearest hundreds place is 674,300. Okay, so hopefully you have made it to the end of this video, but I just wanted to remind you that when you are finished with this video, you are going to go and create a rap or a song, okay? This worksheet is attached in your Google Classroom. You need to write down your rap or your song and upload it into Google Classroom. Then you are going to go and share your rap or song on Flipgrid, okay? And here is the Flipgrid code. It is Hayes 5825, and that's also in the instructions on the assignment, okay? So make sure you upload this worksheet and you go and record your Flipgrid.